Loud. Yeah, you can see my screen, right? Okay. I screen share. Okay. Okay. So we were discussing about spring related beans. Okay. So what exactly we were trying to, utilize that iteration part. Okay. So we were at iteration 3. We wanted to utilize spring related concepts, for creating, solving that problem. Okay. So just a minute, let me go there. Yeah. So we were at the third part. Okay. Loose coupling, spring level 1. Okay. So what we are doing, we are just, before starting this iteration 3, I was covering like what exactly spring can do and how we can create a bean, and what are all different type of annotations which are helping us to make this code very simpler. Okay. So in the for that part, actually we were just learned about first bean, which is a name, age, and also the person object. And we know, like, this is one of the concept which got introduced in Java 10. Okay. So record. So generally whenever we are going to write kind of bean classes. Okay. When I say bean classes, or the simple Java bean. Okay. So what it does, right, the simple Java beans are utilized whenever we wanted to let's say student class is there. Okay. If you are writing a student class, so what are all the parameters, what are all the yeah, what are all the methods that we are going to write it in the student class? Okay, so let's say int roll number, int admission number, and also name and father's name and mother's name. All those things are considered as variables, and for them actually we create a getters and setters methods. Okay, to make sure that we can set the value to that method. Sorry, to that variable, and to get the value from that variable. Okay, so for that purpose, actually, we were creating a separate class and we're writing all that code. So in Java 10, okay, what Java has done, they have done, you know, a tremendous automation. You don't require to do all those things. You just need to create a record, okay, with a person. Okay, so what is the class name that we wanted to give it? Yeah, just give that one. And how many parameters that that you have to use it. Okay, so that is string name, int age, and address. Okay, all those things, you can just write it over there. Okay, and just open braces and close braces. That's it. So internally it is going to perform or act as like a bean. Okay, so that's why whenever we were trying to do here, return new person, I'm just passing all the values. Okay, string and in age, and also there is one more thing, we were having address is also one more extra class. Okay, one more record. Okay, so which is containing street and city. So I'm just giving new address L2 street and AX. Okay, so as we discussed when we are covering theory part, okay, we discussed what exactly this one been, right? So in spring everything is considered as bean. Okay, so why, right? Because if you remember, like, there are a couple of things that spring does it for us. Okay, one is dependency injection, one is that IOC, okay, inversion of control, right? So what exactly that means? So it spring is trying to say to a developer, okay, you worry about your functional programming, okay, and don't worry about how to create object, and don't worry about how to get that object in your class, and don't worry about all the life cycles of creating, deleting objects, and how to connect to the database, how to get those database related objects into your present class. All these technical related things you don't require to worry. You configure one time and utilize all the time. So that was the Spring is telling to us. So one of the concept is at the red bean. Okay, so bean is kind of Spring. Everywhere in the Spring we have to we generally use that beans. Okay, so what exactly we call it as bean, right? Okay, so whenever a method or a variable or a class object or anything that you wanted to utilize in a program, okay, or to inject to some other program, so we have to mark that as a bean. Okay, so that when you mark it as bean, Spring will understand that, okay, so this is the part that I need to take care, okay, about life cycle creating, and wherever it required, I need to inject that object, okay, before that class starts. Okay, so let's say one of our program is going to execute, okay, after starting the project, okay, one of our program is going to execute at the first level. Okay, so that means when you say, if you are using couple of beans in that project, okay, if you are trying to use some auto wide kind of annotation for one of the bean, then what Spring does, right, wherever it sees that bean, okay, it is going to inject, okay, the created object. I'll show you, okay, in the logs how it works, okay. But remember that whenever you are trying to add some at the rate beans, okay, on top, so Spring is going to, create all these beans on the server startup only. Okay, so it is going to create all the beans whenever the server starts. Okay, so let's continue this one. Okay, so we have couple of ways that I'm just creating. This is person two. Okay, this is person three. Okay, and there is one small difference that we are trying to do. Okay, so here I have couple of beans, and also the person is having name and age. Okay, so I already have name and age as bean, right? So how to reuse the existing beans in Spring managed beans to create a new or use in other beans. Okay, so that was the concept, right? So how to use existing name and age to create another project? There are two ways that you can use it. Okay, one is you can directly utilize this method name. Okay, so I'm using method name first. Name, age, and address. Okay, so address is one of the method which I've created down. Okay, so address is going to be populated here. So this is one way that we can reuse our beans using their method names. Okay, and the other one, okay, so the other one is utilizing those things directly with the bean names. Okay, when what is the bean name for this name? So it's name only, and bean for this for age. Okay, and whatever this ADDR, I'm just giving a specific name called ADDR. Okay, so that's why I'm utilizing ADDR. Okay, so you can always use this as our bean name. Okay, name of the method will go as a bean name, and name of this one will go as a bean name. Okay, or else if you wanted to really change that, that name related, okay, you can always do that with this. Okay, with this annotation. Okay, and you can have a change in the name as well. Okay, so these are the two ways that we are going to utilize existing beans from Spring, to inject into your program. Okay, so how to utilize them? Either you can call with the name of that method, and or you can call with the bean name, right? So there is one more thing I just wanted to show you. There is couple of other things like, if you have similar kind of, okay, names, right? If you have similar kind of beans, okay, so address 2 and address 3, right? So there will be a small problem, okay, if you have multiple beans with the same name. Okay, so Spring will not be able to identify a particular bean, until unless you specifically mention about it, right? So let's see you know, uh, how to solve that problem. But till now, we'll just try to run till this part, person two and person three param, and then we'll discuss about the other part. Okay. So how to handle those kind of errors, right? So let me go down and just let me remove this person two, person three. Okay. Okay. So this one we'll discuss. One second. And let me run this program. It's okay. Yeah. So as I mentioned earlier, right, when I have just enabled the debug. Okay. So if you see here, it is going to create all the beans before starting the application itself. Okay. So it created name, age, person two address, and person three param address two. Everything has been created here, right? So yeah. So and also it is doing the next step. Okay. What we are talking about, right? Auto wiring. What is mean by auto wiring? So person 3 param is one of the bean which is having, kind of couple of methods. Yeah. So couple of beans which are used inside this person 3 param. So what is that bean? We were using name, we were using age, and we were using address too. So in the person 3 param, right? So what it is doing, Spring, it is automatically auto wiring those beans, to this person 3 param. And the same way you can see here, it is creating person 4 qualifier and also auto wiring, okay, with the name and age and address 3. Okay, in between these two, there are a couple of things that it created. Created a shared instance of singleton bean, okay, person 4 qualifier, and created shared instance of singleton bean address 3, right? So these things, we are going to discuss next. Okay, for qualifier, I'll show you that. And for now, just consider this one. This is the person object which we created, and this is the person object which, we get it from the type of bean. Okay, one is calling those methods and the other one is calling those names, right? So these two, yeah, these are the two beans which we are trying to do. Okay, so let's go to the next one. Okay, and the next one is, yeah, next one is this. Okay, so we were talking about this person 3 param and person 2. Okay, so what we are trying to do here, right? So there is person 4 qualifier. Okay, so person 4 qualifier. So we were trying to, utilize a kind of qualifier over here, right? So why we required a qualifier? Okay, yeah, I'll show you some. Okay, just a minute. Yeah, just a minute, okay? I'll show you an error first and then we'll come to there. Okay. Yeah. So let me run this one more time, okay? Okay. So now we are seeing this message, right? For the address addr and for the addr.class, right? So what is the address that it is getting printed over here? Let's see. This is like, L1 and cdtx, okay? And so so address and this is the city, right? Address and this is the city, okay? So street and text, right? Okay, so let me just go down here. Okay. So whenever you're calling address, okay, so it is giving me this one, ADDR. Okay, so why it is giving ADDR? Okay, so because I just given the exact bean name, right? So let me do one thing. Okay, so to just make sure, like, you understand this concept, I'm just removing this bean names. Okay. Okay, and I'm just commenting this for some time. Okay, let me run the project now. Okay. Okay, so now if you see here, okay, so there are two things. Okay, person 3 param, I think it might be having some dependencies over there. In 1 second. Which one it is? Person 3 param, right? Okay. I think I removed, right? Person 3 param. Oh, okay. Just a minute. Let me just remove this. Hmm. Yeah, yeah. So if you see here, there is like, oh, okay. Okay, it might be failing because of that address. Okay. Yeah, fine. 1 second. This is not found. Okay, so let me do one thing. Okay, I'm just enabling this, and this. Okay, for address, actually, we created three different beans. Okay, and it is having three different names. Okay, and now what we're trying to do. Okay, so where is the ADDR? Okay, one second. So let me run the program now. Okay, so now you'll see that. Okay, so what exactly I was trying to do? Okay, so we do have three different beans for address, right? So, and if I go here down, okay, so here we were trying to utilize address related bean ADDR, right? And we were trying to utilize address over here as well. Okay, and yeah, so this should be okay. This is not like, depending on any of the bean, but this is actually depending on the bean, right? We were utilizing one of the bean which we are creating it over here. Okay, so now what happens, right? Like when you have multiple beans, okay, in the Spring, so Spring will be like literally confused, like which bean that it has to get populated when you are calling it. Okay, so I was utilizing this one of the bean with ADDR, okay, in person object, sorry, in the person class. Okay, so what we are trying to do, we are just, utilizing the bean which was created by Spring, right? But Spring failed to create that bean. Okay, why? Because whenever it is started searching for that, so it found that I'm using you know no qualifying bean of type. Okay, so for address available, because expected a single matching bean but found three: ADDR, ADDR2, and ADDR3. Okay, so how to solve this problem, right? There are multiple ways that we can solve this problem. Okay, and to utilize address separately, based upon our requirement, right? So the first one is you have to, one second, let me go there. Yeah, the first one is, I think, we have to be making any of these three different address. One of should be the primary. That means, by default, if anyone calls with ADDR, yes, it is going to pick up that primary one, and it will give you the answer for that. Okay, like, whatever it is present, okay, it is going to give it to you the response, like ADDR2 and TX2, right? So let me save this and try to run the application. You will not see that error. And yeah, yeah, see, now error gone, and it printed the second primary, whatever we just added that primary annotation, right? So what exactly this primary annotation can do? Okay, so the primary annotation will be making sure that, okay, whatever the annotation like whatever the method which is having that primary, okay, bean bean which is having primary will be given as the first preference. And whenever we were trying to utilize that kind of bean, okay, so it is going to give you that bean as output. Okay, so let's go for the next one in this. Okay, the next one is like, whenever you're trying to call a bean, okay, and you have other two as well, so address two as you made it as primary. And if you have address 3, like if you really want to utilize these things, address 3 and address 1 as well. Okay, so ADTR. So there is one more concept that we utilize using qualifier. Okay, so what is this going to do? The qualifier is going to help us, to Spring to auto wire the object. So auto wire whenever it is creating the bean. Okay, so how it does, we'll see that. Okay, so which we already have it here. Yeah, I think we already saw that, like how it is going to auto wire, using in the Spring logs, right? When the application starts, actually it is going to create all the beans, and it is going to verify whether do we have any address, or whether we have, sorry, whether we have any, uh, you know, um, primary or qualifiers which are exist. It is going to scan them, and it is going to auto wire, okay, with your with your requirements. Like here I'm just using address, and I'm utilizing at the rate qualifier and for the address. So what it is going to do, it will create this address 3 equal bean, and it is going to inject that bean directly to this address. Okay, you're not required to do anything. Okay, so let's see that one as well in the, okay, person 3 param. Okay, and so person 3 param is going to utilize the third bean which we have ADR3. Okay, so output will be something this. Okay, so let's check that now. Run as application. Yeah, so if you see here now, the one which we have just mentioned, right, like how the Spring is going to create them, right, and auto wire. So this is what we were talking about, auto wiring, person 3 param. Okay, so this is also auto wiring. Done. So, and it printed this, if you see here, this is the one. One second. Person 3 param, right? Oh, person 3 param is this one. Okay, I was looking for person 4 qualifier. Where is that person 4 qualifier? Yeah, okay, it is down. Okay, let me just enable that. Okay, so one second. Yeah, let me run this now. Yeah, if you see here now, TX3 and address 3. Okay. Yeah, so what I was trying to say, because we can call the bean in different ways. Okay, and depending on our requirement, we have to choose that way. Okay, so if we have a duplicate set of beans, and if we have some kind of what do we call, like, yeah, same set of beans, and which is having similar type of names and all, right? We have multiple ways to display those beans using couple of couple of types. One is like using primary as a annotation. You can always use it. Okay, and you can utilize the auto wired, sorry, not auto wired, you can utilize the qualifier, at the rate qualifier. So that will give you kind of one more way to call your specific bean. That is what actually we have seen it in the person 4 qualifier. And the other things are like you don't require to use the bean names. Also, you can also call the name, you can also call with the class name as well. Okay, so if you see here, I was just using system.out.println context.getBean, address.class. Where is the address.class is present? I already told you, like, the record is acting as address.class. Okay, so that means, this is one of the class that we are defining directly, and we are just implementing everything. We are utilizing that in the same class. Okay, so address is one of the class which is going to be having all the two variables, private variables, and the getters and setters method for it. Okay, so by default, so you don't require to write a separate class. So when you use address.class, it actually prints the address related information, whatever we have it. Like, there are three beans, and in that there is one primary and one is having qualifier. The primary one will be getting printed over here because address.class is having multiple beans. Okay, so the primary one will be printed over in the log. Okay, so the next one is if you wanted to see how many beans that you have created in your project, right? So it is very simple that you just need to, yeah, 1 second. Let me remove all this. Okay, yeah. So if you see here, this address.class and also the person, yeah, definition names, right? Okay, so run as Java application. Okay, see, now it executed. This is the last one, right? Where is this? Address.class. Okay, so yeah, if you see here, this is the address to which we are trying to print the default one, address.class. After that, we were just trying to print all the bean definition names, right? So it is going to utilize, yeah, see, this is the hello world configuration is our first bean. And the second one is name, age, person, person2, person3 param, person4 qualifier, and ADDR, ADDR2, ADDR3, and finally I just printed that person4 qualifier, sorry, address.class, and also the person4 qualifier. So it just printed over this. So this is how we just handle, with the beans. Okay, how to utilize them and how to create them, in how many ways that we can solve those errors if we have multiple beans. Okay, so it's kind of like, we just covered like at the rate primary, at the rate auto wide, at the rate bean. Okay, so at the rate configuration, all these things, I think, we just covered with an example. Okay, now we are like, okay, we are we are having enough knowledge, to continue with our next step, like, iteration 3 in our programming, right? So what was the iteration 3? Iteration 3 is like, it should follow the loosely coupled programming, and it should have the Spring level 1. Spring Beans, Spring framework will manage objects and wiring. So because why we were trying to check this program, right? Till now we were trying to create the objects, and we are having the responsibility to create and also manage that object, and to close that object once it is done, right? So now we are just entering to the Spring, where Spring is actually providing multiple various advantages, for creating um, you know creating those objects, and um, what do you call, we're creating those objects, and auto wiring them directly to you to utilize in the code, right? So let's see, the example for this one, for the Spring level 1. Okay, so what is Spring level 1, right? When you go to the same program. Okay, so for Contra and all, right? Yeah, here nothing is going to change, okay, except couple of things. Okay, so the Contra game, game runner, whatever we have it already, game console, gaming console, all these things, will not be changing. Okay, but there is one change that we are going to utilize. Okay, so that is, okay, let me go to here. Okay, so I think, I deleted one of the class. Okay. Yeah, let me close here. Okay, I'll just open that. Close, close, close. Come on, man. This one's slow. Why? Okay. So initially what we are going to do it, okay? Just the first level, okay? This is the first level that we are going to discuss, okay? The first level is, you know, what we need to do. First, we need to understand what exactly we are trying to do, right? With the gaming configuration, right? So we have a project which is actually trying to run a couple of games, okay? With a couple of methods, right? So what exactly it is going to do, right? When you are trying to run this project, okay? So it is going to give you some output, right? So that output, we that is like, running the game. Okay. So we need to identify how many beans that I need to create first, right? I just need to take sorry, I just need to decide upon how many beans that I need to create. Like, not you, basically, you just need to annotate with the @bean, so that Spring will handle that. Okay. So the first option, like, there are two things that we need to do. First one is you have to create a gaming console bean, and you have to create a game runner bean, so that you can run the games, whatever the game which you are passing it. And so and also, you can have the gaming console, okay, which can get the which can get what type of game that you wanted to run it, right? So there are two things. One is to run the game, and the second one is what type of game that we wanted to run it. So these are the two things that we need to consider, and we just need to create a similar kind of beans for us. Okay, so for the first step, what I've done, I've just created a gaming configuration class. Okay, first. So the gaming configuration, what we'll have, so this is our one of the configuration class. So where I'm telling Spring to go and create all these beans. Okay. So whatever the beans that I'm going to utilize in my project, you can find it in this configuration. So why I have used annotation. So @configuration, as similar as what we discussed in the earlier topic, like creating that hello world configuration class, and for the all the beans. So what is the bean that we are creating over here? So we are just creating @bean variable game is equals to new Pacman game, and we're just returning that game object, return game, right? So gaming console, I think you guys remember, gaming console is the interface, okay? So which we implemented that interface in all the games, Pac-Man, Mario, and also the Contra, right? So the next one is the bean, okay, game runner. So the game runner is the where we are going to run this game. So what it is going to take an injection, it is gaming console bean. Okay, so that is game, right? So what we are trying to do here, game runner, we are just creating a new game runner object, which is going to take the game as okay, the bean. So that means, it is going to inject whatever the bean that Spring has been created. It will be injected direct to the game runner as well. And here we were just returning the game runner. Okay, so this is how that there are the two beans that we were able to identify to create in the configuration. So yeah, so now what we need to do, we just need to convert our project, to make it utilize by Spring, right? So how we do that? Yeah, we have couple of things. Okay, we already learned about this one, context, how to create a context. It is very simple way. This is the primary. Okay, this is the primary thing that we generally use it. And so we already have, for now, just forget this one. Okay, so control shift C, 1 second, and I'm just enabling this. Okay, because our configuration is separate. Okay, gaming configuration, we created a gaming configuration class separately. So I'm just giving that gaming configuration to create the application context. Okay, for this project, right? So once it is done, so what we are trying to do now, so let me revisit the changes that we need to do it for the gaming classes as well. So when you go to the gaming console first, so you will see no differences on the gaming console, because this is only just an interface, and which is not really required for multiple things. Okay, sorry, yeah, which is required for only multiple things, that for creating and passing those required objects for the gaming side. Yeah, we utilize this gaming console. Okay, and the next one is game runner. So yeah, so there are a couple of things that we need to do it in the game runner. One is at the rate component. Okay, so why we are trying to write at the rate component, right? So this annotation indicates, okay, so such classes are considered as auto detection by Spring. Okay, so I'll show you what exactly this one. If you go back to the gaming configuration, not here, sorry, the Spring Winds, yeah. So you see there is a component scan, com.learn spring framework.game. This is our package that I'm giving it. Okay, so in the component, okay, so in the game, okay, there is a component that we were trying to utilize it. So this is our main code, right? Complete code was running over here in the game runner, right? So that we have added it as at the rate component, so that Spring can automatically identify these classes. Okay, so whenever it is required to run them. Okay, so that's why we just annotated at the rate component on top of the class. Okay, and yeah, just a minute. Okay, that is running out. Okay, yeah, so if you see here, yeah, the main program, right, it is going to be done in the game runner class. Okay, so we have this component scan, which is going to help Bean to identify the exact component. Okay, and here we were just adding the component scan to find out what are all the components available in the application. Okay, so this is one step. This is one of the annotation which will be helping us to retrieve those components. Okay, and now let's come back to here. Okay, so we were at the game runner, and we were just talking about this one. And the next one is, there are two other things that we need to do. Go to each and every game, and you have to like add these things. Okay, 1 second. So let me just comment this, and I'll show you the same error, whatever we're trying to do. Okay, I'm just running this. Okay, app01 gaming basics. Oh, okay, Spring Beans, right? Okay, run as. Okay, now if you see here, it just ran those things. Okay, up, down, left, right, right. Why? Because we were just hard coding this one. There was the game runner. Sorry, gaming console, I think. No, game runner. Sorry. Yeah. So in the configuration, right? Gaming configuration, we just created a Pacman game object directly, okay, to utilize it. Okay, sorry. Yeah, so we were just trying to add that Pacman game object directly over here, so that Bean can sorry, the Spring can understand which game I have to utilize this Bean, right? So now this is like very much similar that we are trying to do, like we only creating the Pac-Man game, and trying to auto wire that particular thing in this, and we were just trying to do it, right? So that's why we are getting an output. But the exact Spring thing, right, we are not still utilizing it, because we are still creating those objects on our name, right? And we really don't require this gaming configuration as well, okay? Because this is like creating a separate class, okay, in the application, right? So we don't require to do that. Instead of, you can also make the same application 03 Spring Beans, okay? This is the same class, and you can just utilize these beans as well. Okay, and I'm just not going to cover that, because that's very simple. Okay, so the same, whatever the beans, that whatever I have it over here in the configuration class, I'm just pulling out from there and just copy pasting over here, right? But still, we were not able to utilize this Spring Complete, uh, kind of Spring play, right? Like it is always telling that you don't require to waste your time creating these objects and all, right? So how to do that, right? We don't require to actually use these things. Okay, so let me comment everything. Okay, I'm just not going to utilize gaming configuration. I'm just writing only these two lines, okay, to run the project, right? Yeah, so sorry. Yeah. Okay, so now what I've done, I've just removed everything, whatever the beans that I'm trying to create it manually. I just removed everything. Okay, so yeah, so let's see like how Spring is going to handle this thing, right? So we got an error, right? What was the error? So we were just trying to utilize gaming console dot class and gaming runner dot class.